This is Septic Esposa, Black Earth Productions, Blue Flame, Healing Arts, and Occult Science. Here with another segment to address certain narratives that I have seen individuals catch, ironically, into objectives pertaining an occult sacred mission, a planetary guardianship that the Alfarian human races seated on Earth to fulfill. The true mystical teachings which emerged the distant past of the pre-Atlantean era, going well into prehistory, continues to refute and contrast the alleged mystical and religious teachings that have covertly directed humanity towards very specific objectives that have pulled things out of alignment for more than the last 3,500 years, fused with the current propaganda. Originally, all mystical teachings were intended to guide us towards fulfillment of the birthrights here as humans, in terms to the Alpha. But due to these intentional distortions, the sacred spiritual science texts, education systems have misled humanity into its decline, as I cause point to the opposite of what our original teaching actually revealed, let alone intended. Here at Black Earth Productions, we are a major part of bringing things back to the original teaching, making the higher force of the Jedi itself our focus, doing the real work of taking things into the alignment of the original timeline and exposing all of the bullshit to know the difference for what it is. And in light of what has come forth with these agendas, again, others have been addressing it in terms of the title and seeing it, but I'm going to take it even further to strike against what some may still not realize is in our fucking faces. The majority of Omicron Draconians, via the Alnitak Orion, and a large faction of Odedicron avian reptilians from the Analam Orion, have refused a coalition, the White Eagle Falcon deal. In other terms, this goes back to the White Dragon prophecy, and are not to be confused in terms of semantics and context to the Omicron Draconian. They are the Shadow Dragon in terms, reactivating their ancient Shadow Dragon Apin system, which had first been implanted in the Earth grids in 75,500 BC. Taking the true occult history and context to the mythos, I've traced this at least 300,000 years. The Shadow Dragon Apin is everything to do with Nidhogger, who is the personification of the Shadow Dragon Omicron, who gnawed at the root of the spindle of the true universal tree of life via Yggdrasil, to chew at the corpse of the inhabitants of Nastrad, those who are guilty of denial, murder, rape, oath-breaking, and ignorance, which in terms with the ancestors were considered among the worst possible things that anyone could do, in violation to cosmic law. And as to the old ones and parasitic consciousness, the Omicron Draconian, hail Nidhogger in terms to the mythos, and its poisoned root had been placed over Niflheim, and Nidhogger gnaws it from beneath. The dark squirrel, Ratatasker, runs up and down the length of the ash, bearing envious words between the eagle and Nidhogger. Now take that to what I just said about the coalition that was refused. These motherfuckers have basically shot themselves in the fucking head. I'm just going to continue to expose everything here in context. Other names to the Shadow Dragon via Fanfir, Jormungandr, Adder, Goen, Moen, Grafitnir, Grabak, Ofnir, Svapnir, all attribute the masked ones in terms to Nidhogger, in other words, the faceless. The majority of the Shadow Dragon agenda's races refused to join the first Ur deal in the year 2000 leading up to 2020, and choose instead to fight to the end for their Omicron Odedicron Draconian old world order agenda bullshit via the New Dawn in context to the Scarlet Councils directed by the old ones through the fallen factions, and further directing these affairs with those who have sided to that here on Earth. Well-placed groups of individuals that are covertly motivated by the Omicron Odedicron Shadow Dragon agendas via the fallen Anu Elohim. This attributes Metatron via the dark mathematical reversal codex, which has manipulated the RNA and DNA code script to fuel line the treasury of souls, while competing fallen Anu Seraph and Anunnaki and draconian reptilian insectoid races that hail the false gatekeeper of the 10th ether. All of you have been left in the dark about all of this because you have not dug deep enough still. This is why I'm making this segment. Myself being 100 steps ahead, as I've been, am released to share these things from my side of the table because of all of the scramble and distraction and bullshit that you're still buying. I exposed these motherfuckers back in 2017 when I spoke at Free Your Mind 5. How many years ago has that been now? Let alone those that preceded me that have been railing about these things since the activations happened in the year 2000. In 2017, I gave a specific warning in terms of what hit our world in 2020. Warned you about it. You got to realize that all of this is real. And what's even more real is what's past it all in terms, again, to our focus with things and how we live, knowing the difference. 2017 was the year that the ancestors really started to awaken within humanity. And with everything leading up to the present moment, they're still trying to get your fucking attention, whether through me or somebody else that knows the difference in terms of everything I'm getting at. As for others still, they're pretty much telling on themselves otherwise for all of us that know the difference. Many still need to pierce the first veil, which is where they stand. And as I explained in Labyrinth of the Nine Veils, Part 1, and as we, to those that have gone forth in terms, succeeded in piercing the fourth veil like I spoke about was going to happen. It happened on my end, and we're going to start moving into the Phoenix cycles as I've declared in the face of all of this. And as to the Alpharian consciousness, in terms of the White Dragon lineage codex, I have coursing through my blood and coursing through my bones. All interstellar races knew since 22,326 BC that this confrontation was likely to occur during the long anticipated 2000 to 2017 stellar activation. Again, 2017, that's when the ancestors awakened. That was the whole fucking point of going through all the shit that we did prior, leading up to that year specifically. And in terms of the procession regarding knowledge of these events, precisely due to the interstellar political realities that have existed on Earth since 22,326 BC, I stand as one here to make the fucking corrections in terms of the councils. Because just before the final transfer in our favor was going to take place moving into 2020, it was just another play out of old timelines in a blatant act of betrayal to these old cycles to take over to defection and infection. This is what happened in 2020, leading up to the present moment now. And in cooperation with local Omicron draconian legions to launch an aggressive psychotronic attack on humanity, including actual members of those of us who are here to make the corrections via the aeons. Knowledge of genuine spirituality, personal and planetary Templar mechanics, and the dynamics of human biology and DNA activations is what I teach in context with the Mystery School. This is in regard of the organic given brain and biological DNA activations via the gates of the solar spiral itself, in terms of the true universal tree of life. The prima materia, meaning your physical vessel, your biology, is far more powerful than any photosonic swords born of unnatural external technologies in existence. You may have never heard this. You may have heard everybody speaking contrary, like it doesn't fucking matter. No, it matters more than anything else than you can imagine. And in terms of activations, in alignment with the true hardcore intelligence via the higher force, to set our world free from 27,500 years of covert alien enslavement by effectively igniting organically the codex and using our gifts of biology to integrate our eternal spirit to soul code, blood code essence, and embody this here on earth in terms of all the actions we are taking as a manifestation. This is unto the birthright of mankind and why we incarnated here on earth in order to ascend. This is where it happens. This is where it takes place. Here, right now, your life, where you stand, right now, wherever you are here on earth. You are the cause point for this. Otherwise enslaved to an agenda of bullshit spiritual teaching and escapism and fear of becoming. Another term for the Omicron draconian or the dragon moth. Again, shadow dragon. And our factions in terms of Orion, mainly around Al-Natak, which consists the belt of Orion. Now, before I continue, what I'm going to address is something, again, that is extremely important for you to know. Quote, the heavens above are within us. All is within us, as above, so below, as within, as without. This is how the cosmic law of correspondence works in terms of reality. And in context, the Omicron are extremely vicious and violent and are behind most of the militant and terrorizing spirits that can plague anyone's consciousness capacity. In extreme cases, It is entire groups that have been taken over by this consciousness and orchestrate all-out terrorism techniques, primarily by the Omicron Draconian. The Omicron Draconian are draconian reptilian entities that exist extra-dimensionally in bodies that are amplified and controlled by these forces from Orion. Again, the heavens above are within us. Are you starting to finally see how this actually works to manipulate the monadic plane against us and offset and skew the original timeline trajectory to the ancient future? They manipulate timelines. That's what the fuck Divok AI was intended to do. And if you don't know what Divok AI is, go and listen to the segment I did with Mark Passio via Return of the Dragons of Wisdom Part 2. And in order to extend their mind control terrorism to timeline fuckery in terms of the fifth cycle to Atlantis, they're doing exactly what the fuck they did before in terms to Sumeria, which I'm also going to be getting into in terms of this segment. They did it to rip wormholes in time-space. And they've been able to get closer to the Earth plane through the lower astral gridworks specifically. And this is why initiation into the mystery school is vital for those of us who even have the courage. You want in, then get in with us. This is no joke, and everything is real in terms of the ancient wisdom councils manifesting here on Earth again. The Omicron Draconians started to place their alien machinery on Earth at the time of the Nephilim Wars, around 75,000 BC. These agendas run parallel with the Alpha Omega agenda to world genocide and transhumanism in context. Again, in 75,000 BC, the Shadow Dragon Apin was crafted, the Omicron Draconian, and extends all across the Earth plane, keyed into certain regions where those that live there are going to be more affected in terms of these things. And it's these groups that use the science and technology of dark sorcery to open the wormholes, as they did in Sakura, Kemet. And as I've stated in other segments, archaeological evidence has been presented by Brian Forrester, which I again said was going to happen, and was the cause point for the pole shift over 26,500 years ago. It was the cause point for the splitting apart of Pangaea in terms of the landmass of Earth, and then came the Ice Age and the freeze-out, which lasted from around 26,560 BC till about 13,000 years ago, for a stretch of about 13,000 years, after which they started to colonize the human race in the Middle East, and came forth their black hole system wormholes, leading into the Phantom Matrix gridworks. This happened in context to dark ritual and dark sorcery, and the events that took place, which I explained in the Magi Grail Shaman segment, the betrayal of Thoth and the rise of Asur. All to the attempt to gain total control over the planet and humanity. And it's what all of this bullshit is, everyone. Every fucking single bit of it. And it's not going to stop unless you wake the fuck up for real and do something about it. The parallel system of which these entities came forth is called Wizadek, and is the dark universe to the abyss itself, to which the old ones hail from in terms of the mythos. This is a universal time matrix rip, and its parallel, of which the Omicron Draconian and other hybrids originate from the Wizadek and Wizadrak systems. If you don't know what the fuck I'm saying, it's fine. Get initiated, get full access to the Black Earth Library, and start studying, because there's a whole lot more in there besides what I am addressing here, on top of everything else that is beyond this. This is what the Shadow Dragon is in context, everyone, and runs energetic and mathematical reversals into Earth in order to offset things here, to fuel line their system through their wormholes and treasury of souls they have created for that purpose, of counteracting the birthright of mankind and trying to destroy the Alfarian guardianship for control and domination of this time vector in this universal time matrix via our reality. These are also called the Dark Suns or Dark Hearts in context to the Svartalfar, to the cult of the Black Sun agenda sequencing propaganda. And now a bit about the Zeta Reticuli, which attribute the grace. They hail from the star system Rigel, again, the heavens above are within us, and are thus called Regalians, Rosetta Draconian Regalians. They are scouts and are extremely dangerous to humans, as they endorse aggressive, genocidal, and eugenicist agendas to take over Earth as puppets for the parasite in league with the Omicron Draconian. They present themselves in a sheen as guardians themselves, or benevolent humanoids, in order to seduce Earth humans to further their invasion and alien hybridization agendas. All of this shit is laced throughout the New Age movement in terms of teaching as a prime example of this. And they generally prefer to use very attractive human bodies to work through, though they are some of the most hostile when the masks are torn back and the true being, nature, and essence are exposed, and are a major portion of these intruding entity groups. They can shapeshift into appearing human-like and are referred to as the visitors. In 9560 BC, the Dark Luciferian Covenant was launched. It was established in 26,560 BC. And it was in 9558 BC, the Atlantean flood happened, which sank the landmass of Earth even further via the cataclysm of Pangaea, which proceeded in 26,560 BC. After this, the first successful invasion finally took place, which succeeded their stronghold via the rise of the Sumerian-Draconian Empire in 8900 BC. This consisted the Dark Luciferian and Jehovian Anunnaki Omicron Draconian and their Anu Melchizedek Cloister Legion Dark Magicians, who raided human race tribe 10 in territories that became the Sumerian Draconian Empire, along with the surrounding territories in terms to Acadia, also moving into modern-day Iraq and Iran to take control over Stargate 10 and position themselves to invade Kemet in order to hijack the proper knowledge and wisdom and gold technologies and tools that already existed millions of years in terms of Torah. And it was they, along with the Simjazi, Dark Luciferian Anunnaki lineages, the Sumerian Larsa kings, who also attribute the Jehovian Anunnaki lineages via the Hassa kings and Midianite Hyksos kings bloodlines. The Marduk Anunnaki and Omicron Draconians settled Babylon and again to Acadia and were the Dark Draconian kings in context. Into the cosmic conspiracy, it was the Thoth-Enki Anunnaki alliance that came forth the betrayals in terms of Egypt, as was the cause point for this taking place to hijack not only the gold technologies and tools that already existed, but also CDT Plate 11 to the ancient wisdom councils by the Brotherhood of the Snake and the Thothian sect that betrayed the office of Tahuti in exchange for a position in terms with the Anu Melchizedek Cloister Dark Magicians, who afterwards set up Thoth as the god of gods and set course for invasion over the next few hundred years in Kemet and executed with no mercy in 8400 BC. Again, I got into this for over 7 hours in the Magi Grail Shaman segment, The Betrayal of Thoth and the Rise of Asar, here on the platform. Evidence for this is also found in the Sumerian Draconian Larsa Kings list tablets. And as I've touched upon in other segments, specifically, it was in 8400 BC when the Kemetan Egyptian invasion took place. And it was the Thoth-Enki Anunnaki alliance that brought forth the Dark Bruah, Atlantis, Anu Melchizedek Cloister Dark Magician races, again via the Brotherhood of the Snake and the cult of Belial and Lilith Hecate, who raided Kemet from Sumeria via the Omicron Draconian. This happened during the time of Thutmose I, who was the one who held the true legacy of Kemet, taken to Tara, all the way through the time of his predecessor, Thutmose III. The Dark Ones did this in an attempt to overthrow the pre-dynastic Magi Grail Shaman King line's legacy, which all goes back into prehistory millions of years. It was this, along with the Enlil Odedicron Anunnaki combination in terms of manipulation of genetics, that later created the inverted Osiris Isis Horus King lines via the 19th dynasty, who fused the Simjazi Dark Luciferian Anunnaki Sumerian Larsa King's genetics into the bloodline, which also inverted the Egyptian Scarab King line in terms of the Magi Grail Shaman that existed, again, far into the pre-dynastic Egyptian histories that most of you will never know about unless you come onto a platform like mine. And is all a ruse otherwise in terms of history, which also states that the Marduk Anunnaki Omicron Draconian agendas to the cult of Aton and the Setians established the Set King lines after they assassinated Thutmose III and took control of Kemet. They ripped open the wormhole in Sakura. This is when magic became corrupt in our world, through the Brotherhood of the Snake and the Thothian sect to the betrayal agendas with the Omicron Draconian. And as recompense to the military general of the human heart, as recompense to the legacy, as recompense to everything I've stated in context to the birthright of mankind. I am hailing you as the listener to heed these things I'm sharing in this segment. I find it absolutely fucking hilarious and insane that anyone out there assuming that I'm to do with anything I abhor to expose in context on Black Earth Productions. You stupid motherfuckers are retarded. Some of the most retarded and dumbed down people to exist here on Earth, if that's what you assume. Say whatever the fuck you want about me. I don't give a fuck because I know who the fuck I am. And those that know the difference, they're laughing at your asses too. You attribute nothing, do nothing, you are nothing. And you're going to continue to get sucked the fuck dry. You put your hands on the blazing stove and then want to blame? You're a fucking joke. And all of you should go order your clown shoes from Mark Passio and make yourselves known. Because all of you just fucking hide. No, this is the pathwork of wolves and dragons, not sheep that assume otherwise, who live in fear and make excuses to not take responsibility for your existence or your state of mind. Plaguing the victim mentality bullshit, which opens up the goddamn fucking back door to the Omicron, to debunk AI. You are fodder for these fucks. And I am attempting to make you aware of this so that you can rise the fuck up out of your own bullshit state of mind in terms to that. How about that, motherfuckers? I'm not going to be kind to you. I'm not going to be nice, because if you actually knew the definition of that word, you wouldn't even fucking be that yourselves. Own yourself. It's worlds within worlds here in terms of how the objective reality field works. That's what those of us who know the difference do here in this world. We actually do shit to make it better, being the cause point in reality. This pathwork, let alone the rites of initiation, has no room for cowards or those that are not going to go fearless in the face of what takes away our birthrights. It's never going to happen with me. And in the end, before it's all said and done, all of you are going to eat your words otherwise and realize it was you all along that put yourself in that state which you attribute and didn't take the opportunity that's still being presented to humanity. It's taken aeons to get to this point. And all these things I shared in this segment, let alone others, are the real factors in contrast otherwise and in context. This is what it means to be spiritually mature, to act and take the actual torch of eldership in our world. And as to my personal counsel and accountability, and to my own equation and ratios and experience backed up by hard research, confirmed by my counsel. Anybody else otherwise is a fucking joke to me. And as I just explained again, who the real enemy is here in context. All of you cowards still have yet to slay the inner tyrants. That is how you are getting ridden upon otherwise. And it's time for alliances to become greater than they have ever been otherwise. And in terms of things on our end, it's truly coming time for everyone to wake up to the true occult histories and our present hour. And if we don't catch this, it's just going to be a play out of old timelines to the transhuman dark Atlantean timeline agenda bullshit, or come back onto the original timeline. You must decide. And if you want to take things further past these agendas and truly come into alignment, the doors to our mystery school are open to those who want to learn. We're not fucking around, and you will be held accountable. There's a difference here, whether in silence or directly. When the higher force enters your existence, there is no going back, let alone to reveal what is beyond all of these things in terms of the original timeline trajectory. There is much, much more that is coming to the actual legacy being reinstated in the face of all of these bullshit fucking agendas. And with what is coming on the website within the next few weeks, you're going to want to fucking prepare yourselves. And while most of you have been distracted by all the insane bullshit, not hearing a damn thing I've shared along with others, with myself for years now, we have been preparing. They will not see the strike coming, and it cannot be stopped, having already been executed in terms of timelines that have taken place via the ancient future. And it's going to quite literally change the course of history forever in terms of the gold of consciousness. So as to take things deeper to actual initiation, send me an email at blackearthproductions@hotmail.com. Check out the services page on the website. I do offer a payment plan in terms of the full rites initiation session if people need that. There are individual reading sessions made available along with other services and also potential for full access to the Black Earth Library, which again holds over 40,000 books of occult reference material that you're not going to find compiled in fashion anywhere else on Earth. Get ready for what is coming next. This is Seth the Exposer, Black Earth Productions. May the power of Enthura via the higher force be upon you. Decide.